Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche. And for the next few weeks, I want to do a little mini series on native Michigan shrubs that you can typically find along our lake shores. These are species that are also really adaptable and great to have in your own landscape, and that we'll be featuring in our upcoming end of August native plant sale. So I'd like to start with Ninebark, Physocarpus opulifolius, and this is a lovely native shrub species whose range covers much of the eastern half of North America. You can find it throughout Michigan's lower and upper peninsula. And this species, it's been referred to as resembling a cultivated spirea. So it's actually quite ornamental in its appearance, but something that you can find in a wide range of natural habitats as well. So in Michigan, you can find it along river and stream banks, along the shores of calcareous sites. So here we're at the Gerstacker Preserve and the Nature Conservancy property in the Lakeshore Islands area east of the bridge in the Upper Peninsula. But you can also find this species in swamps, wet meadows and prairies, prairie fen, moist swales, rock outcrops in the northwestern Upper Peninsula. But you can also find it across its range along bluffs and cliffs and thinly wooded hillsides, at sandy seeps, and in thickets and hedgerows. It is associated with willows and ground juniper, and red osier and silky dogwoods. As far as culture goes, this shrub gets 3 to 9 feet tall. So we're kind of on the shorter side, but we are right up out on the edge of the sandy beach. So it makes sense for things to be a little stunted. And oftentimes the overall mature size of the specimen will relate to soil fertility and moisture levels, and just how old the plant is. Here's an example of one that is closer to that 9-foot maximum height. This was a nice large individual I found blooming, about a month ago, closer to the parking area at Gerstacker Beach. So lovely, and they can get quite sizable with time and good soil moisture and fertility. And it prefers full to part sun and average to moist soils, but it can take relatively dry soils as well, like these sandy beach areas. It is adaptable to a variety of soils, from clay to loam, to sandy and rocky substrates. Generally find it in circumneutral to basic pH situations. It is fast growing, pretty insect and disease resistant, and it does well in situations that might be wet in the spring and then dry out in the summer. So that wet to dry cycling, changing of the spring water table down to summer dry down. It can reseed itself. It is water dispersed, and it can be propagated with false sowing the seed. No special treatment of that seed is needed. And you can do semi-hardwood cuttings with or without rooting hormone. So as far as identification goes, let me talk you through some of those key things. So the twigs start out green to yellow. These are actually more red cast, which is typical when there's lots of sun exposure. And the twigs are pretty strongly ridged as you get down to more mature areas. And I want you to make sure you can see this bark. The woody stems are recurved, and it has this shreddy strips of bark, or it can break up even into broad sheets on really old specimens. And that color range is from dark brown to dull orange, usually with a light brown or tan inner bark. So that's, that lends itself to the common name Ninebark. It has multiple layers and lots of colors. So a diversity in the bark characteristics. The leaves are alternate and simple and deciduous. They can get up to 5 inches long and 4 inches across. They are generally 3-lobed, so you can see that here with the 3 primary lobes. And they are sometimes shallowly 5-lobed on larger individuals. The leaf margin is coarsely rounded toothed. If you want the fancy botanical name for that, that's crenate dentate. And there are 3 primary veins coming from the leaf base. So there's 1, 2, 3 primary veins. So that should help you with identification when there are leaves available, plus the shreddy, very multicolored bark and ridged twigs will help you. The leaves are glabrous green above. They can be somewhat pubescent beneath, but that can be a variable character. And especially earlier in the spring at the base of the petioles, there are paired stipules. The foliage will turn a pretty yellow bronze color in the fall. The flowers of common ninebark occur in rounded clusters from the tips of young stems, and they are quite spectacular, very showy. That's part of what gives this native shrub an ornamental appeal. And it has, these flowers are, clusters are 2 to 3 inches across, and each white to pink tinged flower is approximately a 1/2 inch across. It has 5 petals, 5 sepals with stellate or like star-shaped spreading hairs, and they're usually grouped in more than 25 flowers per cluster, and those are on long pedicels or long flower stalks, also with those stellate hairs. And the flowers have 5 styles and 20 to 40 exerted stamens. This species blooms in the spring, May into July, for about 2 to 3 weeks, and it is insect pollinated. The fruit is an aggregate of follicles. You can see that forming here, and it's often those follicles are in 3s and terminal clusters of 10 to 25. And the follicle is rather inflated, so it looks kind of poofy, and about 1/3 of an inch long with a slender, sharp-pointed little beak. And these follicles split open on 2 sides and release 2 to 4 light brown seeds. They often become pretty red tinged in the sun, but mature to brown in color. And the fruit is winter persistent. So that's another good key characteristic. Look for those poofy brown follicles with a little beak to help with your winter identification. Here's a look at another individual along a limestone cobble shore. This one was a little further along, a little more robust, more mature fruit. So you can see those clusters of follicles turning red into brown, and you can see the sharp beak on those grouped follicles. So a very striking, readily identifiable fruit. As far as faunal associates go, the nectar and the pollen that the flowers offer attracts bees, wasps, flies, and butterflies. This plant is the host plant for moths, and it's eaten by some insects, some aphids, beetles, and plant bugs. White-tailed deer may browse the foliage, and And the branches, it's always good, I tell folks, cage your woody plants as you're trying to get them established for the first 2 to 3 years. And the seeds are eaten by some upland game birds. So this is a really great adaptable shrub species that you can add to your own landscapes. It's widely adaptable from woodland edge gardens, wet to dry kind of situations like rain gardens, in swales, along banks, and it just has really showy flowers and the winter interest with the different colors of bark and persistent fruit. So I hope it's something that you'll consider adding to your own native landscapes. Take care and have a good week.